Hey guys, Eerie is here. I hope you've all had a good week and welcome along to another video. In this video we're going to briefly touch on how we got on in the last round at Dragon Trail Gardens before moving on and covering where we are in our challenge with Ollie and James. There is only one round left after this one and I was last coming into this round. So I practiced properly because I don't want to come last and be the one who has to do the one chip challenge. So I arrive here having done more practice for this race than I have done in a long time, so let's see whether all the practice was worth it. Okay, so I had planned to show you my time trial and open lobby prep, but I recorded everything apart from the sound. A content creator's absolute worst nightmare. So the B-roll we're watching now is our outlapping quali, which is a killer as the prep was something I spent a lot of time doing and wanted to share with you guys. And I did that mainly because I feel I'm regressing, I'm getting slower, which normally happens to me in almost a cycle-like pattern. I get complacent and then I get a shock, which in this case has been my recent poor results, which forces me to refocus. So I've reset again and put some proper time into practice, well by my standards at least. And to give you a clue, I think all in all, before showing up to film this video, or at least trying to film this video, I had done maybe 15 to 20 laps of the Nordschleife. I also did a couple of full race runs in the lobbies with the tyre and fuel multipliers on for this race. You'll have to trust me on that one though, but it did serve its purpose and now I'm familiar with how the tyres and the fuel will behave and comfortable with how the car will feel in full race mode. So now there is nothing to do but to see whether all this preparation has paid off. Here is today's lobby then, to give you a flavour of the strength of this one and the points on offer. As I touched on, we're currently bottom of the little challenge we have with James and Ollie, and I don't want to lose. Fair play to Ollie, he's way out in front, and having done the sums we need 193 points in this race to draw level with James. But considering I prepared for this one, I want 200 plus points at least, so we're going to need a fairly good result here to achieve that. My one and done policy is still in place, spending all Saturday afternoon on the computer after being at the office all week, well, at the virtual office all week, is an absolute no-go. So here we are as I mentioned on our outlap. I'm thankful though, due to the recording issues, GTS has forced us to do a whole lap before we can do our fast lap. iRacing, by the way, Gran Turismo Sport, starts you at the midway point of the Dottinger Her, FYI. And that's to save everybody doing a 10-minute lap. You know, just something you might want to think about for Gran Turismo 7. So that's why I'm driving around like it's the first day of the Touristenfahrten in my own car, trying to save my tyres. I want them to be perfect and not worn at all for our fast lap. And thanks to our pedestrian outlap, we managed to do that. But I think I actually took care of them a little bit too well, as they were cold when I crossed the line, and that cost me 1.5 seconds through the first sector alone, just waiting for them to warm up. But we've got plenty of time to make up for that though, over the course of this 13-mile, 130 corner track. And despite a couple of scares whilst trying to navigate those 130 corners, we came across the line with a 7-minute 06.439, which was 4.5 seconds off of our best time of a 7:02 that we logged in practice. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but it just wouldn't be an Eerie's video without a poor quali session, would it? So we're going to start in 13th, but we're also car number 13, so it's not all bad. But we definitely need to work hard to get up the field and get those points that we need. So as we move on to the race session here, we're starting in 13th, as I say, behind the Brit in the Subaru. I've put the points on screen here so you can see the current situation as the race unfolds with the points versus James and how far behind I am. Now I know I say this all the time, but here it is probably more important than ever to take it easy at around the most brutal racetrack in the world in my opinion. We need to settle into this one in the early stages. There's two hazards here. There's crashing, there's penalties, well I suppose it's a third hazard, a combination of the two. And where we are currently running, casting our mind back to the points table is not going to be enough. We need to start making our way up the field. So with that in mind, I'm trying to put Harley under as much pressure as possible here. There aren't any real overtaking opportunities throughout this part of the track, but I'm conscious as the cars ahead in the positions that we need for those all important points are starting to get away. And whilst we do that, let me introduce the race here. So this is the penultimate round of the Manufacturers Series. One last round is left after this one at Maggiore Centre. We're in the Group 4s. This is going to be the last event of this season in the Group 4s, and we're of course in the Mustang. We only have 2 laps here, as you can probably see there. Fuel isn't a problem, tyres will wear somewhat, but no one is going to stop, as you simply won't make up the time you'd lose in the pits. So it is, very much in contrast to last time out where we stopped loads of times, a straight out sprint. And I use the word sprint sparingly. You need to sprint, but you also need to keep the car on the black stuff, not hit the barriers that are waiting for you just a couple of metres either side of the track. If you hit those, you'll lose time as part of the crash, but you'll probably also get a penalty too. So that is something we're very much going to try and avoid. Up ahead here, you're going to see that the yellows are out. Keep your eyes up in front, as ironically, Please Fix Penalty gets himself a big old penalty for this. But thankfully, you're also going to see here that he's going to move aside before we hit the carousel, just lifting off there to let us through. I appreciate that, my friend, if you're watching, and as a result, we're up to 11th. I've always loved that name. It's a real shame that they clearly don't listen to you. Now, I don't know about you guys out there, but I find the next section of the track that we're approaching the hardest part of the track. It's mega fast, it's undulating, there are mostly blind corners, and it's going to catch up with the Subaru up in front. So we're going to stay on board here as we come through this right, this very soft left before another right, and then the blind left-hander here. It's almost like a double apex here that flicks you down the hill, and you're going to see here that the Subaru just dips his wheel onto the grass and it fires himself back across the track and into the barrier. Now, I took it easy going around him to avoid contact at all costs. Too many times have I been wiped out by cars coming back on the track to let it happen again. And as you would have seen as well, we're up to 10th, but now we're up to 9th pretty much straight away, as somebody, I don't know who or I don't know why, has dropped out of the race. But going back to the Brit, it was very important to clear him, because the group ahead, well, you can see them on track here, were and have pulled away. But now the coast is clear and we can start using the speed we've gained from all the preparation we've done to start hunting down the pack in front. But there is an art to it, especially around a track as long and as unforgiving as the Nordschleife. Different cars are going to have different strengths at different places around the track. You have to have the awareness of risk and know where you can push and where you definitely shouldn't. Especially as the penalty gates are at the start of the Dossinger, it turns a 1 second penalty into a 5 second penalty really quite quick. Finally, you have to be aware of how different cars deteriorate during a race, and we're going to see that firsthand in this one. So we're up 5 places and in 8th as we cross the line to start lap number 2. We're in a great position here at the halfway point. Up to 8th obviously is good relative to where we started, and there are a group of 4 cars up ahead, and those cars crucially are all FF cars. I say crucially because I know their front tyres are going to start to fade soon. I had my brake bias to +2 to even out the wear on the car, but from experience there is nothing that they'll be able to do with their tyres, even with +5. I've experienced massive wear in those cars before, and it wasn't even around a track as tyre hungry as the Nordschleife. I'm confident they'll fade towards the end of the lap. The Nordschleife is too tight and twisty that it's a bit of a procession around 90% of the track anyway. So my prime objective here is to be in the slipstream at the bottom of the Dossinger straight. If I can do that, I'm confident this Mustang's grunt, along with the slipstream, is going to bring me past. So it's just a case of staying calm and just thinking of the bigger picture, being aware that their cars will be stronger at some parts of the track and ours stronger in others. So the gap will ebb and flow as we make our way through the lap. All we can do is take control of what we can control by not crashing and hope there is as big a group of them as possible. The more there are, the more we can overtake if we're in the slipstream at the bottom of the straight when we need to be. So jumping towards the end of the lap here, we've got ourselves into position, and the TT at the front of the group has a penalty, so we're going to overtake him regardless. And as we pull onto the Dottinger for the final time, it is on. The TT pulls alongside the Pug, I pull alongside and then overtake them both. Now I knew that Chris had moved once. I've raced him a couple of times before and know he is a fair driver and he won't move again. Well, he could do, but it'd be very unsportsmanlike and quite uncharacteristic of him. But as I expected, he didn't, so therefore I stayed where I am to give him the tow as a thank you, bringing him along with me past the Frenchman. I could have pulled in front of either of them to give whichever one I wanted a tow, but he always says hi's in the lobbies too, so I thought I'd stick in front of him. And that was going to be the way it was going to end. After a very satisfying race, I came across the line for 5th. I guess all that practice paid off. Who knew that practice actually helps, eh? So let's see now whether that result was enough to get us off the bottom of our little challenge. So that 5th place collected me, as we look at the Ford points table here, 210 points. Now that's a good result from us in this car. Combine that with the 167 point score for James in this round means we leapfrog him, and I do indeed go up to 2nd place. Mission accomplished. Now Ollie, as I mentioned earlier, has done a great job so far. Good points from him with this horrendous machine, and it's not all over. I can still win. I just need Ollie not to improve at all, and I just need to win top split. Easy, right? As a bonus, we gained 800 odd driver rating as well. I think we could have done better had we not lost that time in quali, but alas, we still got a good result. We could have gone again, but my one and done rule was well and truly in force, especially on a precious weekend afternoon, as I mentioned. I was, however, really happy to turn the tables at a track that I struggled with a few weeks ago in the dailies. The prep was well worth it, and it was nice to show finally what I can do. I hope you guys thought so too. So now that's done, the only round left is at Maggiore Centre in the Group 3s, which again, I'm going to prep for to see what I can do. But until then guys, that is going to be the end of the video. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do give the video a like and make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, with those notifications turned on. Have a great week of racing guys, and I'll see you in our farewell to the Mustang in the final round of this season's Manufacturers Series in the next video. Cheers.